FESIG, the free energy special interest group where science meets spirituality in the quest for truth and knowledge to free humanity and transform this planet into a paradise.
Hi everyone, hi. Welcome to Physics 116th meeting. Today is the 6th of September and we are all here for you. It's Press, myself, Crystal and Pontus. And I think James would jump in every now and again when he's free. And we have Henrik with us, John, the R&D team members, Matthew, I think, Eric, and so many who had been consistently working with us in the R&D team, coming up with developments of the devices. And we are so grateful and thankful that we have an awesome team here. We have our 116th meeting agenda coming up, and I'm going to share screen now so you can see it. Okay. Oops, here we go. FESIG is a free energy special interest group. It is the platform where science meets spirituality. This is where we have all gathered to learn together from some of the world's most brilliant speakers. And we are so grateful and so honored to have them speak at our platform. I go very quickly, very fast. You can freeze frame and read it because time is of the essence. We had a couple of false starts today. So our first session is, our first session speaker is Mr. Michael Feeley. He's a former UK police officer with 17 years of investigative experience, who's now an esoteric author of many books. The most prominent one is The Alchemy of the Gods, which is like a bestseller, revealing many of the world's ancient mysteries. He will reveal to you at this meeting how the universe was created, what was its purpose, what is our purpose, and what did God really create all. And then he will be talking about the pyramids, the Sphinx, Tartaria, the ninth sphere, the 10 commandments, the Ark of the Covenant, who is the God of the Bible, Yahweh, and why is the year 2001 AD so important to humanity? And then we have the Q&A session, and thank you for jumping in live in this presentation in our meeting. Then you can have an interaction with our speakers with the Q&A. And our second session speaker is Brad Olson, an award-winning author, publisher, event producer, and explorer who has appeared on dozens of television shows, including the History Channel's hit show, Ancient Aliens, including Coast to Coast AM, along with a dozen other radio shows. He will talk about our real and fake world. He will take us on a deep dive into the origins and reasons why, and point out along the way the various glaring data points that explain the dangers to all of us, but also the way out. He will also speak about the free energy chapter in his book, not my book, sorry, beg your pardon, Future Esoteric. So pen down in your diary for our next meeting and join us again to learn from these awesome speakers. Pen down our 4th of October date for our 117th FESIG meeting. Okay, folks. And if you want to write to me, you can write to crystal@truevisionapeace.com. And this is our website, truevisionapeace.com /FESIG.html. And subscribe to all our channels. And you know, some of the speakers have to be pushed to the BitChute channel. You know why? Because YouTube's not very good at welcoming them. And then we have our Odyssey channel as well that mirrors YouTube's videos. Join our Telegram group so you can interact with us and the speakers. You can contact the speakers from there as well, apart from the links on all our announcements on our website, as well as our reports with the MailChimp out to you. It's only once a month that we send the MailChimp out to our database of members. So do join us so you don't miss out on any of these announcements, okay? It's only once a month. If you think that is loading up your inbox, you can always delete it, okay? So if you go to our website and click on join us, you will be put onto the database automatically and you get sent all this. Just once a month. Right. So I'm going to introduce our first speaker. Michael Feeley is a former UK police officer and is now an esoteric author who has been called the Real Da Vinci Code, DAVINCI, Da Vinci Code. He is a symbologist, Christ mysticist, illuminist, and TV host who presents his own weekly TV show called Secret Knowledge. Michael is also an international conference speaker and independent documentary maker, presenter. I believe he knows our second speaker as well, Brad Olson, because I think I see them together in some of the major conferences. Michael has solved many of the world's most revered ancient mysteries. Who was Christ, Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, Joseph, Adam and Eve, Noah, and Moses et al., and answers whether or not they really existed, as we have been taught to believe by the church. Is there a deeper meaning to these stories and characters? Michael says the answer to that question is yes. Michael is able to explain what the Sphinx of Egypt represents, and also the pyramids of Giza across the world and beyond Earth, and how they are connected. He reveals what the monoliths of the world also mean, and the Ark of the Covenant and the like. Michael has answers to what the universe really is, and what God is, and what our purpose here is, and what the Big Bang of science really is. Michael is revealing all of these mysteries and many more through his books and his talk here, as well as time permits. So he takes you on a treasure hunt, the goal being secret knowledge and wisdom. The world we thought we knew can be changed forever. Over to you, Michael. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry about the delay at the start.
That's okay. It's refreshing because it's normally me that has the problems, so it's nice that it wasn't. But hello to everyone, welcome. I do know Brad Olson. I've done many talks with him, so you're in for a treat next time. But thank you. I'm just going to share my screen, and touch wood, there won't be any issues with that. And if you can confirm when you can see that, and then I'll just crack on with
oh, yes, confirmed.
You can see that. Wonderful. Excellent. And you can still see it?
Yes.
Brilliant.
Absolutely.
Let me just try and move the box out of the way so you can see.
Yeah.
A lot of things began to happen to me in 2009, and it turned my life around and actually left that career. But it taught me the art of investigation, how to put evidence together, how to look for things, how to allow the evidence to speak for itself. It also allowed me to be able to present that evidence in a succinct way in a court evidential scenario in a way. So I just go straight to the facts, I just present the facts, and that is kind of my upbringing in relation to that career. So what I'm going to share with you for the next 40-50 minutes or so is really some of the mystery school teachings that seldom gets leaked into the population. So the masses will not know the information that's about to be shared. We have, should we say, a battle where we have that religion says that faith is the road to salvation, but Gnosticism says that knowledge is the road to salvation, and that there is no truth in faith. The Gnosticists say that God is within you and your salvation is within you, but religion says that God is outside of you and that your salvation is through the church. So we have various battles, certainly of old and certainly now, between the likes of the Knights Templars and the Vatican, the Church of Rome. Now, when we see the likes of swords, military swords, sword is really the S word, the spiritual word. And the sword is really verbum Dei, which is the word of God, because the sword becomes the cross by virtue of its shape. The sword is both sides of the answer, and it is both sides of the question. It is really more to it than just a military weapon. When we look at various names in a biblical setting, such as Elohim. We are told, or we are taught to believe that Elohim is God or gods. But Elohim actually means oak tree. And the wind and the breath that moves the leaves is really the breath of God. It is God in the midst of the garden, with the Garden of Eden, the tree, etc. And we have the likes of the word druid, that means oak, knowledge. So the tree is extremely pinnacle in terms of ancient knowledge. Now, in Sanskrit, it's dua, which means oak, and also door. So the oak, the tree, is the door to knowledge. When we look at the Hebrew God of the Bible, Yahweh, and this is it in its tetragrammation form, YHWH, it actually means to inhale and exhale. So again, we are talking about the breath of God, not God. The word Jesus means divine breath, or the circulation of divine breath. So again, we are continuing on the exact same theme. When we look at Enlil of the Sumerian scrolls, the Anunnaki story, Enlil is the Lord of Wind, which again is the same theme, the oak tree, the breath of God, etc., etc. The Egyptian symbol for the tree of life was the 3 lotus flowers, which became the fleur de lis of the Merovingians, of French royalty, and so on. But it also had a precursor, which was the bee, and the bee is highly significant in many different ancient ways. So when we go to a beautiful church or a cathedral and we see these columns, it is representing the world tree. It connects the heavens to the terrestrial, to the underworld, which is the roots. So these columns are the connection between the underworld, the earth, and the heavens. Now, in sacred runes, this is the Isis rune, which gives us Isis of Egypt. And Isis means ice. Now, ice turns to water, which is Mary. And you will see that Christianity, the Bible, is really Egyptian secret knowledge. So Isis, ice becomes water, which is Mary. And these pillars support the Ionic arch, which is the womb, which is the first principle of creation. And we see that Isis is the mother goddess. Okay, so mystery school knowledge, then we go to the Knights Templars, then the Elohim, and then the Druids, and then Christ and Yahweh and Enlil, and then the fleur de lis and the pillar of the church. Can you see that?
Yep. Yes, beautiful slides.
Wonderful. And then the next one is out of the womb came the ice and the hoary frost of heaven, who hath generated it. So basically went into Isis, and ice being the goddess of the womb. So biblically we have that connection between the church, Egypt, and Isis. And here we see the Ionic archway of the church, which is really, again, the womb, the first principle. Okay. And then I moved on to Moses. Moses really means child of the saved. So in other words, it is an initiate of the mystery schools. And his 10 commandments are really the tree of life of the Kabbalah, which is Jewish mysticism. And you can actually create the tree of life with your 2 hands, such as this. The 2 little fingers mean the earth, and the 2 thumbs related to the ether. So we are going through the 10 commandments from earth to ether. Basically, it is the 10 commandments of ascension. And here is that particular tree of life in the Kabbalah. Now, when we look at the plagues and we see the lamb's blood above the door for the angel of death to pass over, the lamb relates to Aries, which is the lamb in the sky, the Lamb of God. And Aries in medical astronomy really is the higher mind. Now the word Aries becomes arise and we ascend. So it is really talking about the blood of the Lamb of God, which is the higher mind. And when you look at different things, that's what he's talking about. So we now have the 9th plague, which is darkness. It is ignorance of these things. And we have the 10th plague, which is the death of the firstborn, the death of the little ones, which is really a name for the initiates. So you've always had the church that wanted to destroy those who had knowledge outside of the scriptures. So the biblical 10th plague, where the firstborn of Egypt were killed, is talking about the initiates who have this information. Now we have the likes of Mozilla Firefox, which we probably all recognize the symbol of. But what is that really telling us in code? Well, Mozilla means the beast reborn, which is the animalistic nature of man. And when we rebirth ourselves into a more spiritual human, we lose the beast aspect of ourselves. Now, the fire is illumination, but you also have the fox, the firefox. So what does fox mean? Fox relates to 666, which is not actually a negative number. It is a positive number because it is the follower of light. And we see in Egypt, we have the lion, who is the king of the beasts. But in Pythagorean mystery schools, there is a secret number for the sun, which is the number 36, because the sun stays in each of the signs for 3 months. So we have 3 times 12, which is 36. So the secret number for the sun is 36. Now, if you add up all the numbers from 1 to 36, it gives you 666, 666. So 666 is actually a follower of light, a follower of the sun. It is not the negative connotation that we have been led to believe. Now, the Bible tells us that it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. So can a camel really go through the eye of a needle? Yes, it can. But the answer is in the Hebrew alphabet. And this is how. There is a religious cult, a Jewish mysticism cult called the Essenes. Now, the Essenes basically have initiation, which starts at level 3, which in the Hebrew alphabet is Gimel. Now, Gimel has a pictogram of a camel. So the camel is the first level of initiation into the Essenes. Now, the final part of the initiation is level 19, Quaf, which really is a pictogram of the eye of a needle. So when we talk about an eye of the needle and a camel, we're talking about the initiation process of the Essenes, this Jewish mystic cult, from level 3, the camel, to level 19, the eye of the needle. So a camel can actually go through the eye of a needle in terms of the initiation process of this mystical group. When we look in the Bible, it talks about sacraments. But what you have to do is you have to split the word. It is really, sacrament is the sacred amens. And amen are the 3 primary forces of the heavens. So we have Aleph, which is the oxygen that we breathe, the breath of God, the Christ, the Yahweh, the Enlil. We have the Mem, which is the Divine Mother, which is the fluids of the body, the Mary, the Mother Mary. And we have the Nun, which is the son of Mem, which is the Messiah, the fish. So what we have in Amen is Aleph, Mem, Nun, which is Hebrew for the 3 primary forces of creation. And that is what Amen is. And that is what these 3 forces are. Of course, the symbol of Christianity is the fish, which is the nun of the word Amen. It is the 14th Hebrew letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Now, when we go to Egyptian mythology, we have Osiris, which means open eye, the 3rd eye, who was cut up into 14 pieces by his brother Sept. Now, the 14th piece, the phallus, couldn't be found because it was stolen and eaten by a fish. Now, this goes into the Hebrew alphabet, the 14th letter being Nun, being the fish. It is all sacred information. Now, when we go to fill up our fuel in our cars and we see this logo, many people believe that this is the sun. It's not the sun. It is really the symbol of sexual energy. It is the forces of Venus, the shell. Now, the forces of Venus enter the body at puberty, which is when sexual energy begins. So it's talking about the venereal astral light that is liquefied and illuminated. And that is the symbol of the shell garage. It talks about Venus, which is when the forces of sexual energy enter the body. And then we see the likes of the Pope, who wears shells on his robe. He's referring to the world of shells, the empty vessel, the ninth sphere, which again is the misused sexual energy. Now, in Catholicism, the sixth commandment talks about fornication. Now, the word six is the word sex. It's the same thing. So we have the sixth commandment, which talks about fornication, and six is sex. So again, it is all encoded about this sexual energy. Now, the cross, it has many meanings, it has many different shapes, and the different shape means something else. But the Christian cross relates to the sexual organs of male and female, the union of the same. Now, when we move on to the Adam and Eve story, Adam relates to the brain and Eve relates to the sexual organs. It is the serpent, which is the sexual impulse, that brings down Eve, because it is the sexual impulse that really is the tempting serpent. It is the spasm of the animal, which is the orgasm. Now, when we look at the Apple Corporation logo, it is really telling us not to waste the seed. And if we do, we are biting from the apple. It is there for us to see in the modern day world. Now, when we see Mr. Spock, he's talking about Shin, the symbol of Shin, which is sin, the word sin, because Shin is the fire of passion. It is lust. And that is what Mr. Spock is doing in his hand gesture. Now, Spock was a Vulcan, and the forge of Vulcan relates to the ninth sphere, which is the sexual realm, where we misuse our sexual forces, which is what we have at the Vatican in relation to the sphere within the sphere. It represents the ninth sphere, sex, or the misuse of that sexual energy. Even when we look at Cain and Abel, Cain is the sensual mind, Abel is the soul. So by this serpent of sexual impulse, the tempting serpent, we have an offspring of that, which is the son of Adam and Eve, which is Cain. The mind, the lustful mind that kills the soul, kills Abel. And that is really the story of Cain and Abel. It is talking about the sexual forces that kill the soul, or misusing the sexual forces. So the serpent is a sexual potency. And Eve says, the serpent beguiled me and I did eat. In other words, she had the urge for sex, for sexual impulse, and that was the tempting serpent, which led to the offspring of Cain. Now, the virgin birth, or the Virgin Mary, relates to the woman who has conquered this tempting serpent. She has become the chaste woman. And that is also what Mary Magdalene represents. She represents the symbol of the sexual organ that is transmuted and become chaste. Now, the name Mary Magdalene in Greek equals 153. Now, 153 is the center of the geometric vesica Piscis, which relates to the womb, which is exactly what it is telling us. And here you can see the fish that comes out of the vesica Piscis shape, the sign of Christianity. Now, from left to right or right to left, it has 153 units, which is the 153 fish that Christ caught. It is the 153 that is encrypted within the entrance level of the Great Pyramid. It is the 153 steps in the Grand Gallery of the Grand Pyramid. And it is the 153 feet that is the length of the Grand Gallery. Now, the Great Pyramid, the entrance level is course 17. If you add up all the numbers from 1 to 17, it equals 153. So this is how Christianity comes from secret Egyptian knowledge. And we even see Christ inside the vesica Piscis, because he destroys the tempting serpent. It becomes compassion, not passion. And that is why we see Christ in this shape. Now we have 8 Venistic initiations, which is called the Christos Lucifer. Now that is why both Jesus and Lucifer are called the morning star, which is Venus. Moses was in control of the tempting serpent, because in the Moses story, he throws his staff on the floor and it turns into a serpent. He was in control of these sexual urges. He was an initiate, and that is what Moses means. Now, when you look at the word Vatican, it is Vatis Khan, which means serpent prophecy. Again, it is hiding the same thing. It is talking about the sexual urges. Now, only when you have conquered these urges are you a true witness of Jehovah, which is the fire, the God within you, who is in the midst of the garden, the midst of the tree of Eden. Now, Eden comes from the Hebrew word Eden, which means to see the doorway of life, the body. The Garden of Eden is the human body. And all of these conflicts, this tree of life, the tempting serpent, the Adam and Eve, the Cain and Abel, they are all within Eden, which is the body. And only when you've conquered these processes are you a true witness to Jehovah. The two witnesses are the Ida and the Pingala, which also relates to Adam and Eve. The two opposing serpents, the two opposing energy centers of the body. And here we see them again. The body is Eden, and Eden is the door of life, which is the body. Now, the same principle moves on to the Noah's Ark story. What is the biblical flood? Well, the Great Flood is the degeneration through our sexual waters. It is the destruction of humanity because we are misusing the sexual waters, the flood. That is what the biblical flood is talking about, and it will bring the destruction of humanity. The two animals within us are the sexual potency of man and woman. They are the two animals that go into the ark. We all have the sexual potency of man and woman. These are the two animals of the ark, which is also the body. So when the flood waters of degeneration, the sexual waters, arrive, you are saved if you have worked with your animals, your own impurities, inside the ark, the body. In other words, you have used your sexual energies and your sexual waters, the flood waters, correctly. That is your salvation within the ark, which is your body. Now, we can see all around the world, in pop, in films, in society generally, in advertisements, they are trying to tempt us into this sexual lust. It is the tempting serpent of Eden, of the body. It is the same for the mythical Tartaria or Tartaria, which is basically the underworld, the ninth sphere, the abyss. And when we talk about the mud floods of Tartaria, mud relates to fertility because things grow from the soil, things grow from the mud. And again, the flood is the degeneration of the sexual force. So even the mythology of the island or the land of Tartaria relates to the same thing. Now, when we are able to transmute these sexual forces correctly, and we use them correctly, then we are turning water into wine, because that is really a code in mystical circles for the transmutation of your sexual waters. You turn water to wine. Now, when you look at the Sphinx has no nose. And if you have no nose, you have no breath of life, because God breathes the breath of life into the nostrils. So without a nose, you are disconnected from God. That is what the Sphinx is telling us with its nose that is missing. It is not Napoleon's marksman that we're target practicing that morning. It is a symbolic meaning that humanity has disconnected itself from the breath of God. Now, the number 9 relates to the perfected soul. It is the human octave. So the number 9, that is why we have 9 pyramids. It talks about the ascended soul. So you have 3 small ones, 3 large ones, and then the other side of the 3 large ones, you have another 3 small ones. So you have 9 pyramids of Giza. The capstone is an aerial, it's an antenna, and it transmits and receives information from other planets. And when the capstone is replaced, then humanity will again be able to communicate with the stars. Now, the developed soul is called the Son of Man. It is the outcome of the sacrament, the sacred amens, Aleph, Mem, Nun. Father, mother, offspring. Joseph, Mary, Christ. Osiris, Isis, Horus. Depends upon what part of the world you're at. So when you look at the Vatican from an aerial view, it is the shape of a key, which means the explanation of these things that I'm talking about. It is St. Peter, the rock, Petros, which is Yesod in the 10 Commandments, which relates to the foundation stone. It relates to the sex. So the key is the explanation of these things. So the tree of knowledge of good and evil is this. It is the tree of life of the Kabbalah, the Hebrew Kabbalah, which I've already said you can see in the hands. Now the 10 Commandments are the left and the right hand of God. So the left hand is the flux of energy that leaves the body, and the right hand is the flux of energy that enters the body. This is why the likes of ancient Egyptians and Hebrew rabbis will always read and write from right to left, whereas we read and write from left to right. We are going away from our spiritual center, whereas they're coming back. They're bringing the energy of God back to their body. That is why they do this from right to left. Now, biblically, King David relates to the hand, because David in Hebrew is number 14, relates to number 14. Now, the hand has 14 phalanges, which are the bones of the fingers, which relates to the hand of the mysteries, and how, again, you are able to become a mystic through the knowledge of King David, through the knowledge of the hand. But there is also a shadow tree, an inverted tree, which is why St. Peter is upside down. It is the negatively inverted tree of life. That is the upside down cross. As I've already said, this monstrosity at the Vatican relates to the 9th sphere. It is the Kaplof, it is the abyss, it is hell. It is the world of sex, the world of lust. Now, if you look at the word Rome, it comes from the word Roma, which is amor, which means love. But they've lost it because love has become passion. That is where they've kind of lost their way. Now, in the Great Pyramid, you have this, which is called the abyss. It relates to the 9th sphere. It relates to hell. It relates to the Kaplof of the 10 Commandments, of the Hebrew Seraphot. So we have 2 types of teachings. We have the exoteric, which is producing writings that was accepted by the authorities at the time. And we have the esoteric, which is the uncensored thinking, reflecting the true stance of the mystics, the Gnostics. This is the secret knowledge that we are not told. And it is passed from initiators to initiates in what they call a morphic resonance. So in other words, they're passing it by word of mouth, like I'm doing now to you, and it stays within closed rooms. It stays within closed groups. It never leaves that compact group. So we can only ever understand this if you are the victim of the same passion. You must want to know, you must want to put the work in, you must want to research and dig and dig and dig until you find the answers. And sometimes they would eat paper with various words on, because they knew that those words had a vibration that would transform their insides, which is where we get the word Reader's Digest, which is a famous magazine. So illumination is an individual task. It is not a group activity. Each and every one of us has to ensure that we get to where we need to be. And it's not easy because it is all wrapped up really in cotton wool. It is so interwoven that we can't see it unless we dig for it. So they say keep it secret and keep it safe. Now the word occult comes from the stars. When a planetary body covers another planetary body, it is called occulting. It means hidden. So the word occult just means hidden knowledge. It's stuff that is hidden from us. And as I've said, it's an archaeological knowledge that you have to work hard to find, to dig, to decipher. We have the likes of the knowledge keepers of Egypt, which again, coming back to the bee. The bee, the nectar of the bee, is the fire of the gods. It is the knowledge. It is the wisdom. And there were people called the Sarmong, who were the beekeepers, the knowledge keepers of ancient Egypt. But it all relates to the phoenix from the flames, the rebirth of self, the resurrection of the self. Now in Greek, the word phoenix is the same as the word purple, which is why you see some bishops and higher ranks of the clergy in purple. It relates to the phoenix from the flames, the illumination, the resurrection, the rebirth of self. And that is why the pop star Prince was absolutely fascinated with the colour purple. And he would sing about purple rain, and he would always wear purple, because it is the phoenix from the flames. It is the illumination, the resurrection of yourself. So what is the purpose of the universe? The purpose of the universe, the divine plan of the universe, is to reach its maximum potential, its evolution to its absolute optimal prime. And that is what we call God. So the maximum potential of the universe is God. Now, within that, you have fragments of that oneness. And each of those fragments also have to evolve itself to its optimum potential. And when you as an individual evolves to your maximum potential, you become godlike, the Godhead, as the Egyptians called it. So if you imagine the universe is evolving and expanding to its optimum potential, and each of the individual parts of that universe, namely ourselves and all the other life forms, are also supposedly meant to be evolving to their own maximum potential. But the problem is humanity isn't. It is going in reverse. And unless humanity begins to expand itself, it will be replaced, because that is the law of evolution. So we have to start to evolve, otherwise we're holding everything back. We're holding the universe back. We're holding all the other races of the universe back from its maximum potential. Some people in their actions need to get wise to that very well, because a lot of people now on the planet have entered the last man status. And if they do not start switching on to this, the simpler forms which they are will be replaced by more complex forms. And it has happened on Earth before. It will happen again if we don't get it. So what if God didn't create the universe, but the universe creates God? Because if you look at it in the way that I've just explained, the universal maximum potential is what? Is God. So until the universe reaches that maximum potential, God has not yet been revealed. So we need to evolve. We really do need to evolve. I'll skip through just a few of these slides because time is getting on, but our fate is in God's hands, yet God's fate is in our hands, because we need to evolve together to reach our maximum potential, which is the divine plan of the universe. So instead of God being the beginning, what if God is the omega point, which is the end result of that maximum potential having been reached? So that's the alpha and omega, which you can see, and not many people know about this, but this is the sarcophagus within the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid. It is the alpha and omega. The omega point is basically when you get it, when you understand things, is the omega point. And when we think, when we contemplate, when we have critical and rational thought, we are in the godlike state. We need to start to think. So how was the universe created? Science tells you that there was this Big Bang, where there was just a moment where everything exploded and everything we know as a physical universe began at that point. That is not correct, because something doesn't come from nothing. Something comes from something. So what they are describing is the creation of the material physical universe, but within an already existing universe of light, the mental domain of thought. Now, when this dimensionless existence expands, it becomes the dimensional universe. When the dimensional universe shrinks, it becomes the dimensionless universe. So you have two universes effectively within the same space, both coexisting together simultaneously, the dimensionless and the dimensional. The Big Bang relates to dimensional. The whole of the science world only acknowledges the dimensional, and until it recognizes the dimensionless, it will not get any further in its equations. That is how the universe was created. Now, the language between the two, the dimensionless and the dimensional, is mathematics. It speaks in numbers. It speaks in mathematics, which is the universal language. And even though all its equations point in that direction, it is really being missed by science. So, the mind at large is the God mind. Our Father in heaven is the universal mind. Now, when we dream, we go into the dimensionless world, the dimensionless universe. Now, in the dimensionless universe, you can only have light bodies, beings of light, such as the angelic realm, who can come in between the physical dimensional and the dimensionless world of light and world of thought. Now, the separation between those two domains is called the Horus, which gives us the word horoscope, the scope of Horus. And it also gives us the word Horus, the horizon, the hour. That is what the Egyptians are telling us. They're telling us about the divide between the world of the physical matter, the universe of matter, and the universe that is dimensionless, light. And the separation is Horus. Now, the mind's eye sees in this dimensionless domain. The body is the dimensional, but the mind's eye, Osiris, sees in the dimensionless domain. This is the Illuminati symbol on the American dollar, the eye above the pyramid, because the mind's eye sees in the dimensionless world of light. That is what they're trying to tell us. So now let me answer to you what a black hole is, because science has not yet been able to answer what a black hole is. In every galaxy, there is a black hole, which is essential to existence within that galaxy. Now, a black hole is where matter, or part of the dimensional universe, is transformed into the dimensionless universe, or alternative the other way, where you have dimensionless becoming dimensional, or dimensional becoming dimensionless. That is what a black hole is. It is what transforms the two states. That is what a black hole does. As I say, even though all its equations point in this direction, science is missing it. And as long as they continue to view the universe only a dimensional matter, they will not get the answers that they seek. Because in coexistence, there is a dimensionless universe. So that is the creation of the universe. There are two universes within one. Black holes transmute between the two. And you have the likes of Horus, the Egyptian god Horus, which is the divide, the guardian between the two realms. So the physical body cannot go into the dimensionless universe. Only a body of light can go into a dimensionless universe, which is why the likes of the Egyptians and many of these ancient sites of stone, spirit stone, were used to induce the soul out of the body. And in the likes of the Great Pyramid, in the likes of the sarcophagus, the granite stone, the spirit stone, they would use 10 cycles per second as a vibration, which would induce the soul out of the body. It would be catapulted up the pyramid shafts, just like the barrel of a gun, and it would go to certain designated star systems, in which it would become a star walker in order to get knowledge from this universal dimensionless world of light and bring that knowledge back. And that is what the sarcophagus is. That is what the pyramid shafts are in brief. And that is what they were doing in the likes of the Great Pyramid, amongst many other things. They were inducing their soul out of the body. That is what they were doing. So everything really is sound. Now we have the laws of physics, which is really mathematics. We have the laws of sound, which again is mathematics. And we have all of these numbers which everything adheres to. Now, every sound has a shape, and every shape has a sound. So when we have these sound waves, audible mathematics, music, when they stop, we get the likes of sacred geometry, such as the pentagram, which is really the fifth element. It is the breath of God. Again, going back to the Yahweh, to the Jesus, to the Enlil. It is the breath of God, the pentagram. And the pentagram can be symbolized in different hand symbols. When we see Christ doing his Trinity sign, it is the pentagram, because you have 3 spikes at the top and 2 at the bottom. When we see the likes of Winston Churchill doing his V for Victory, that is an inverted pentagram, because there's 2 points at the top and there's 3 points at the bottom. So we have Christ and Winston Churchill doing the pentagram and the inverted pentagram. Even within the most famous hymn the world has ever heard, Hallelujah, the chorus of Hallelujah hides the pentagram with the superimposition and overlaying of the 5 notes of the chorus. So we have Plato's vision of the world of perfect forms, which became heaven of religion. We had Plato saying that there is one particular form that was higher than any other in this dimensionless universe, and he called that the good. Now that became God. So the good in the dimensionless universe became God in heaven. And that is how the likes of Plato and these esoteric teachers, their knowledge was used for the masses, for the exoteric levels, but nobody was ever understanding what they were saying. So in essence, we have the monuments and monoliths of the world. In addition to being able to induce the soul out of the body, in essence, they were able to become amplifications of sound. They were aerials and transmitters and receivers to other worlds. We have the likes of Stonehenge, which is really the key of Solomon. And we have all of the monuments and monoliths of the world, which are a gigantic star map. They've taken the stars and they've put them on the face of the earth. So where is it directing us to? Now, this map is within the likes of Roslin Chapel, within Stonehenge, within the pyramids, the 50 pyramids of Egypt, not just the ones at Giza. They are all a gigantic star map. Now, the Vatican, where the Pope stands on the balcony and looks over the Vatican, it is aligned to the star map. Now, what you have is you have sun-like stars which are not our sun, which is known as a solar trinity. And I will finish on this point. There is a solar trinity of Sol 1, Sol 2, and Sol 3. Now, when you put this triangle over Sidonian city on the planet Mars, you will see that where the face on Mars is situated, it is where the Ra star, the Christ star, the Star of Bethlehem is situated in this solar trinity. In other words, it is saying that there is a race of your likeness in this particular place. So we have all of these monuments and monoliths that are pointing to this particular place, this solar trinity. So how do you get there? You first go to the 3 main pyramids of Giza, which is in Cairo, which is Al Kahira, which is a place like Mars.
Michael, Sorry to interrupt. Are we stuck on one slide?
Yes,
or
I'm
is it
basically
one more?
just concluding
sorry.
now,
Okay,
concluding the
thank
end. So, so basically, you have all of these things which are hidden. Now you go to the three main pyramids of Egypt, and you look to where they're pointing, which is the three stars of Orion's belt, which is your John the Baptist, which is your Osiris in the skies. And you look at the three stars of Orion's belt, which are aligned to the three major pyramids of the Giza Plateau. And you look to where those three stars are then pointing, which is towards Torus, which is why the bull is so significant around the world. Even when you go to Glastonbury and you see the Tor, Tor means Taurus. It is the bull on the hill. So you look at the three stars of Orion's belt and it points towards Taurus. Then you go through the neck of Taurus. Neck gives us the word Anunnaki, and it also gives us the word Pharaoh. So the pharaohs were the star travelers, the Anunnaki. So you go through the neck of the bull and you go towards the Pleiades, the seven sisters, which in the likes of Roslin Chapel is symbolized by seven doves. And that is the Pleiades, the seven sisters. Now, when you get to the Pleiades, there is this solar trinity, Sol 1, 2, and 3, which is the solar trinity that has been pointed at by all of the monoliths of the world and others on other planets of the solar system. They are saying that there were star visitors from this planetary system, including the origins of humanity. That is where we came from, this system, this soul trinity. We are not from Earth originally, we came here. And it is our job to evolve ourselves with the universal teachings that we can get from being here. I was once told in a channeled message, enjoy your time here, you have an eternity to be elsewhere. So in other words, enjoy the smell of the flowers, enjoy the sound of the crushing leaves under your feet, enjoy the sound of the oceans, enjoy the breath that you breathe. Not so much these days because it's contaminated, but nevertheless, feel, sense, enjoy. Don't be in such a rush to leave because you may not get a chance like this again. Take the opportunity, evolve yourself, which is the divine plan. Once you have evolved yourself, you become godlike. You connect to our Father in heaven, which is the universal evolution at maximum potential, which is God. God and godlike become a union, and that is how we all evolve and return back to the one, to the singularity. So thank you very much for your attention. I hope that's answered a few questions in relation to why are we here, what happened to put us here, who we are, and what we can achieve, and where we're going back to once we've achieved it. So thank you very much, and I'll stop sharing the screen and I'll answer any questions that people may have.
Thank you, Michael. I mean, that was awesome. I mean, you finish it off with such a beautiful, beautiful finale. I mean, advising everyone to enjoy the time while we are here. And that is a very good stark reminder for all of us starseeds who are here doing the work and the mission as well, because we're so focused and so passionate with our mission that we worked too hard and we forgot to go out there to smell the flowers, breathe the fresh air, and walk barefoot on the grass. You were saying that we are to use all our 5, 6, 7 senses, I would say, the seventh one being the spiritual sense, to the hilt. We can.
If you look at the eye of Horus, it's telling us about not only the 5 senses, but the 6th sense that takes you beyond the 5 senses.
And the
when you go
sense.
beyond the 5 senses, that is when you start becoming from the 5th dimension onwards, which is the dimensionless universe. And that is when you are in the dimension of light. There's a picture of me that I didn't get to show tonight, but it's basically the picture of my soul. And it is me as basically an orb, just a same shape, but just a bright light. There's no features on my face. My head is just like a bright light. And that really is the Ark of the Covenant, which contains the energy of God, within you, because you are the Ark of the Covenant. And when you have illuminated yourself, then this God energy is able to be contained and stored within the Ark of the Covenant, which is you. So you become the solar man, or as the Bible calls you, the Solomon. And that is when you become your illuminated self. And the only way that you can illuminate yourself is by entering the kingdom of heaven. Now, the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of God, is knowledge. And if you start to gather this knowledge and you start to expand your knowledge, then you are entering into the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven. Because heaven is really the sky. And when you start looking at Father and Son, which the Bible talks a lot about, the Father is the Son in the higher realms. It is almost like our lower self and our higher self, the Father and the Son. But they are always connected. So the Son becomes the Father, or has to become the Father, which is our Father in heaven, the universal knowledge, the university where we get a degree, because he's talking about the degrees of sky of the universe. So when you illuminate yourself and you have the wisdom and the knowledge that the ancients have left for us to find, then you become Solomon. You become the walking Ark of the Covenant. You become a godlike expansion, which then aligns to the evolution of the universe, which is God. And that's what we're here to do. There's so many people that say, what's my purpose? What am I here for? What am I meant to be doing? Well, you're meant to be doing whatever makes you happy. Because when you enjoy yourself, even though society is structured to make people feel small, to make people shrink, because if they put them in reverse, then they can never expand to their godlike full potential. So they're winding in the fishing wheel. They're not letting people expand. And the whole of society is geared to stop that from happening. So by enjoying yourself and by doing the things that you really like and really love, then you are automatically raising your vibrations and you are expanding yourself. So your purpose here is to not only expand yourself, which then expands the greater universe of which you are a miniature version, but you have a good time and you enjoy yourself and you do all the things that you enjoy doing. And that's your purpose. You know, we are called beings for a reason. Sometimes we just need to be. So enjoy it. Enjoy your time here, because you will have an eternity to be elsewhere. So enjoy your time and enjoy the flowers, enjoy looking at nature, enjoy looking at the stars, enjoy interacting with people. More so people who are on the same vibrational wavelength as you, because then you'll enhance yourselves. But enjoy every aspect of it, every smell, every taste, every sight, every vision, everything you hear. Enjoy it.
Thank you. To recap on what you were presenting, you were saying the black hole, it's the transformation. Entering from the dimension to the dimensionless, the form to the formlessness. So meaning from matter to nothingness. So you're saying to enjoy ourselves, because in physicality, in embodiment of this physical human sacred temple of a body, then we can experience the 5, 6 senses, if you're not talking about the spiritual sense. So that is from the formless of the body, the physicality, right? So if we move on to the 5th dimension, the 6th dimension, to the dimensionless, then we wouldn't be able to experience all these senses. Are you saying that, Michael?
Yes, because the senses are really a three-dimensional physical thing in terms of ourself. Because the only way that we can interact or have any sense that there is a reality is by having our senses. And, you know, we touch, we feel, we smell, we see, we hear. Those are our senses. We can only interact with reality as we know it with those senses. But people only ever see a reality based on those senses. Now, the brain creates your world, and it creates your world based on memory a lot of the time, because you have your senses that take these universal waves and they give them to the brain and say, what you make of this. And the brain takes that information, and largely based on memory, it will form the world that you believe to be real. But you never see the real world because it is an interpretation of your senses and your brain. So when you look beyond your senses, you are then looking into the dimensionless universe, which is in coexistence, in simultaneous existence with the physical realm. When you look at what is the biblical Satan, Satan is the lord of matter. So anything that relates to the material world, or the illusion of the material world, or the decadence of the material world, falls under satanic consciousness, because Satan is the lord of matter. So anything that relates to matter relates to Satan. But then you have the dimensionless world of light that relates to God, or the expanded universe. So you almost have the yin and yang, the opposites of the same thing. Now, if I get that top hand is the higher realms and the bottom one is the lower realms, it is but a mirror of each other. So the lower world, the material world, is really a pure replica, a pure copy of the higher realms. And you can turn it around, because they will always be in simultaneous existence. They can never not be in existence. If you imagine that you are this supreme consciousness that the Bible tells us is perfect, but you've never experienced death, you've never experienced life through the five senses, you've never experienced anything, because you are pretty much in silence. Now, there's no such thing as nothingness. There is always something. And that is why you can't have the Big Bang creating something from nothing. You have to create something from something. But the God is, this supreme mind is in the universe of mental thought, the dimensionless universe. But it is not perfect. It is not all powerful, because it has not experienced anything. So what do you do? If you are a self-awareness, if you are a self-consciousness, the one thing that is essential to you is another self-awareness, another self-consciousness, so that you can interact and look back on yourself and see what you are and see what you are not. Otherwise, you can never know what you are. You can never be complete unless you have a mirror. And that is creation. So you have the material world created within the world of dimensionless, the world of light, the world of thought, and it expands. And that is the Big Bang within an existing universe. Two universes existing within one simultaneously: light, the world of thought, and the universe of matter, the satanic consciousness. And that is, and black holes is when the dimension all gets sucked into the black hole, it becomes dimensionless. But when the dimensionless comes through the black hole, it becomes the dimensional. When the dimensionless expands, the Big Bang, you get the dimensional. When the dimensional shrinks, it becomes the dimensionless. But both are in simultaneous existence. They can never be separated. But God cannot be perfect until the universe has completely evolved to its maximum potential. That is what God is. And we are holding it back because we are not evolving to our maximum potential. And the law of evolution states that simple forms will be replaced with complex ones, because we cannot hold back the universal evolution. It is the divine plan. And God cannot be realized until the universe has evolved to its optimum maximum potential. And we have a situation where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, but on Earth we've inverted it, and the parts have become greater than the whole. With this, I'm all right, Jack, screw the rest. Because we're not working together. We're not realizing that when somebody's suffering, so are we. And if you realize that, there would be no suffering, because it is yourself who is suffering. So that really is how the universe is created. That is why the universe is created. That is why every galaxy has to have a black hole, because it is essential for life, for existence. And our black hole in our galaxy is called Sagittarius A. Sagittarius gives us the word sage, which is wisdom. And when you enter the world of wisdom, when you enter the world of knowledge, you're entering the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven.
Thank you, Michael. I've got to quickly answer Brad Olson's question. He's our second speaker and he's been here for quite a few minutes now. Yes, your time is right, Brad. Yes, we had a bit of a delay when we started with Michael. I'm so sorry about that. I think we were 20 minutes behind. So if you don't mind, can we give Michael a little bit more time, Brad, if you're not in a rush for the next appointment? Yeah, I mean, let's enjoy what Michael's saying now together, shall we? Michael, just to recap before I pass the microphone. Before I pass the microphone over to our co-chair Fres, I just wanted some clarity for the audience, listeners and viewers from you. You were talking about a lot of sexual symbolism that had been propagated all over in history of mankind and everywhere by the church and everything. Yeah. So you were talking about the abuse of the sexual energy. So it can only happen in physicality, in physical embodiment, in the dimensional state, right? When you go through the black hole and to the dimensionless existence, then there's no such thing as you're not open to sexual abuse, sexual energy abuse.
You still have the energy that goes with the three primary forces of creation, which is what Amen is: Aleph, Mem, Nun, which are your three primary forces. So the word Amen is relating to the three primary forces of creation. So you have to have the union of opposites, which then have an offspring. So the ancient world realized a long time ago that sexual energy was creative energy. You know, the spasm of the animal, the orgasm, is really this sexual energy. And the ancient teachings
it's for procreation, not for recreation.
Well,
and that's where the abuse division is, isn't it?
Yes, because I mean, again, when you look into the original Holy Communion, it was the drinking of menstrual blood and semen. It's basically, you know, the elixir of life, the fluids of life. Now, there's many biblical stories that relate to the same thing, as I've said in the presentation: Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, Moses, Noah's Ark, you know, the flood, the biblical flood. It relates to the degeneration of sexual waters inside us, inside the ark, which is the body. So that they're all relating. Now, the priests were trying to rectify this by what they called celibacy. But of course, that went wrong because they were doing it incorrectly. So you have these, the serpent, the tempting serpent, which is really the urge to have sex. Now, Eve was conquered by the, in the story, when you see it as an actual allegory and a metaphor rather than Adam and Eve, because Adam and Eve and Jesus and Moses and Cain and Abel were not real people. They were metaphors for a deeper knowledge. So when you look at the deeper knowledge of these things, Eve succumbed to the tempting serpent. And as a result, the sexual organs, Eve, then tempted the brain, Adam, who then gave into the tempting serpent himself. And the offspring of the result of the tempting serpent was the lustful mind, which is Cain. Now, Cain killed Abel, which is the soul. And the misuse of this sexual energy kills the soul. And what the ancients were trying to tell us and encrypt is that you need to liberate your soul, your Solomon, your solar body, because your soul is an orb of light. And as I say, I didn't get to show you, but I have a picture of mine. And it isn't just a beautiful bright light, no features, a bright light. And that is what you have to liberate to become the Solomon, to become the walking Ark of the Covenant, which is where the energy of God is contained. It's contained within the Ark, the body. And if you illuminate yourself, and if you liberate your soul, and if you use these sexual energies correctly, you are using their energy that doesn't leave the body, but it gets reused by the body. And that is the whole story of Christ and the resurrection of Christ. It is talking about the use of the correct sexual energy. The 6 commandments of Catholicism is fornication. 6 is sex. So your sex commandment talks about fornication. Fornication is the waste, the degeneration, the illegitimate use of these sexual waters. That is what they are telling us at their deepest teachings. Not that there was a true Adam and Eve. The tree of life, the Garden of Eden, Eden, the doorway of life. Now, we create life through the sexual waters, the flood waters of Noah. You know, Noah in Latin is no, which means to rebirth. You need to resurrect and rebirth yourself to liberate your soul, to become the Solomon and the walking Ark of the Covenant, to expand yourself to your maximum potential, which is then the godlike or Godhead state. At the same time, the universe is evolving, and when it evolves to its own maximum potential, that is God. So God is not the beginning, God is the end. And when you have the godlike human and the God of the expanded universe, then you basically completed the divine plan. But humanity in its actions, in its lust, in its satanic consciousness, because Satan is the lord of matter, so anything that relates to matter is the realm of Satan. And when you misuse these things, you are in satanic consciousness. And in doing so, you are preventing the universe from moving forward. Now, the universe expands because of mathematical multiplication, but we are stopping it from happening. And that is why simpler forms, through the law of evolution, will be replaced by more complex forms, because it cannot continue to be allowed to stop the divine plan. So people really do need to get switched onto this and start trying to do something to reverse what we have done. And I will then obviously give way to Brad, because I don't want to keep him waiting too much longer.
I'm going to pass the microphone over to Russell. Oh,
Okay, really, I'm going to do this really quick, and it's a compliment to you because you've threaded through this material very delicately. And those of us that have studied it, we've got comments in the chat that have gone along with, you know, watching how you've progressed through there. And you've managed to nicely dance between all the gotchas of your presentation. So a good job with that. Your summation of what you've done just now, coming to this point, is a really good place to end. But I'm going to turn it back to Crystal, and I'm going to say thank you for your presentation today. Well done.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. And what I think is everything relates to the same thing.
I just have one last question. I can insist. Okay. You know, when you know about the secret space program and all that, along with Brad, that you had been attending these conferences together with our beloved James Rink, and they were talking about, of course, the Nachtwaffen and the Dark Fleet and all that. They have been flying through the black holes from the formless, from the formness to the formlessness, the dimensional to the dimensionless. So how does that work when the spaceship in form, in physicality and all that, dives through the black hole out to the other end and becomes formless and nothingness? What
I've come across from various different sources, including those not of this planet, is that there's a couple of things that are happening, really. One of them is something that they've been developing for a long time, which is called a warp bubble. And I've experienced a warp bubble around my body. It's basically where you are in a casing, almost an invisible casing, that the energy at the back is faster, more rapid than the energy at the front. So basically you're being pulsated through space. They also have means of, it's not gel, but let's call it gel, which is really, again, to case them into these things, so that they're basically being protected from the outside elements. So theoretically, you could, as a human body, which goes against the laws of physics, because the human body cannot exist past the speed of light. If you are in such things as warp bubbles, you can actually bypass those laws of physics. and you can travel at the speed of light and you're not moving. Now, when you travel at the speed of light, the end of your journey is in the exact same place as the start. If you travel at the speed of light in zero energy, that light burns blue. Now, blue is significant in a lot of ways. You know, that there are extraterrestrial races that are blue. There are certain archangels that have a blue energy because they're traveling at light speed in zero energy, and that light is burning blue. So there's all of these things that they're able to bypass what we would deem to be the laws of physics, which is really how mathematics is behaving in a particular dimension, and the dimension is simply just frequency. You can go into any dimension from anywhere if you match its frequency, or you can go in any timeline if you match the frequency of that timeline. And if you maintain that frequency, you will remain there. And I know there's a new age push and an urgency to get to the fifth dimension, but as I've said, why? You know, we have a job to do here first. We should, instead of trying to leave Earth as quick as possible, we should be trying to do something to reverse it so that we don't want to leave.
Exactly.
And if we turn it round,
Well said.
there's nothing wrong with Earth. It's beautiful, a beautiful planet, but the wrong people are running it. So we need to change it so we don't want to leave, not be in this rush to want to jet off.
Yes. Thank you, Michael. Right. So there being no other questions, Fres, shall I wrap it up?
Yes, there's thousands of questions, but we really need to get to our next speaker.
Yeah,
and I could, if it's always, I'm being quiet because I can open up 1,000 questions.
Me too. Me too. Well, we can always have you back, Michael. In fact, I can see in the chat, John Kane, our Team 2 R&D member, is really raring to meet up with you. If you live in London, Michael, we all can get together. Yeah, it'll be fun.
2 hours away from
you can answer our questions privately, and we might just do a report and put it out at
why not? Have a lunch.
That would be great. Yay. Right. So, folks, there being no other business now, this first session of our 116th FESIG meeting is now adjourned to the second session where Brett Olson speaks. So don't go away, folks. It will be another exciting session coming up. Right. So I think we can stop recording now. Oh, before we stop, there's a little announcement here. Our video, our top performing video with Gene Decode has been hijacked and stolen into another channel. And folks, please get your friends and your people just to go through our channel to watch it, okay? Don't go to the other channel. It's a lot of hard work, okay? Many nights, no sleep, just to prepare speakers sessions with us, and there's a lot of work put in. As you can see, our team here, Pontus Fres and I, are always here for you, and we're doing this for free, and we sacrifice our careers to do this because it's our divine mission. So it's not nice when people steal our hard work. Okay, just an announcement so you know, right? Thank you so much, folks. Bear with us and be with us always. Namaste to all of you, and thank you so much to Michael Feeley, and we hope you would be able to come back and share more gems with us. It's so thrilling. Thank you. Let's stop recording now. Thank you.